Hello. Hello. Testing. It looks like the mic is on. That's always good. All right. Hey everybody. Welcome to another Stonehearth dev stream. This is dev stream 210, and one of the things that I hope to get done today is some sound improvements for Raya's Children and for other kingdoms and stuff in general that Doug Pryor has been asking me to do for quite some time. So, without further ado, let's call that up and see what we can do to make Doug's life a little bit easier. So, how are all of you guys doing? It is good to see you, as usual. I look forward to streaming all day so that we can hang out together. And it's kind of funny because, Alpha 18 is on its way and it's going, but I've been spending a lot of my time doing other, hey, where's Stonehearth going? Let's talk about high-level stuff and, other things. So it's actually been quite a bit of time since I have written any code. So this is going to be exciting for all of us. So I beg your pardon because it's going to be a little bit slow, probably. That also means that it's going to be a little bit slow, it's going to be a little bit painstaking, if you see things in the code that you're curious about, you can stop and ask me about them, because probably, I haven't thought about them in a while, and the refresher would be good for me. Let's see. Good to see you all. Wise and King Foxtrot and 8-Bit Crab and Turtle Squish. Oh man, I apologize. I've still not read Rosebell Tower. It has been a dense sort of week, but I have not forgotten. I do want to get to it. And let's see. Okay, so the yeah, I do the videos. I do your the Desktop Tuesday videos, so the ones that come out on Tuesdays. And we've actually been starting to take these Twitch streams and put them on YouTube just through the Twitch export to YouTube button, because sometimes looking at the YouTube comments, I get the impression that you guys would like more Stonehearth, and so, I would like to give you more Stonehearth if you would like more Stonehearth. So we've been exporting those, so you see me on Tuesdays also from the stream. Hey Mally, it is good to see you. Geester, good to see you also. Let's see. Alright, 3 a.m. for Wise. Alright, so this I want to be fairly straightforward, because I sort of want to ease into this stuff. Let's see, so what we want to do basically is say okay, this is all well and good, this music is, idle day music tier 1, idle night music tier 1, idle day music tier 2, night music tier 2, day music tier 3, night music tier 3, tier 2 day music. I see. So given a tier, given day 2 music track, right? So tier to night music track. So given a tier, and whether it's day or night, what music should it be? And then this is the title music and the combat music. So what I want to do is I want to separate these guys out so that in addition to here you've got the day music and the night music, at the different tiers there's also different music for the different factions. And one of the things that we should do for this is let's make these changes in Lua, and then eventually let's try factoring these guys out to JSON, because frankly you want to be able to override and add things probably to these tracks, and it's a lot easier to do that if they are JSON files instead of Lua files. So how does the music get selected? So that's probably answered here somehow. So there's a function called recommend music tracks, and what is this called? So whenever the time changes, if you change from day to night or night to day, then it tells, we call this function recommend game music, and recommend game music takes a track, like, which is recommended by this function, recommend music tracks. Let's just see let's make sure that, right, okay, so, and recommend game music is, so like if it's day, recommend game music. If it's night, recommend game music. And these are the ambients, and this is probably the music, right? So this is like the background, like the chirping and stuff, and this is like the actual sound. So, return tier to day music track takes one piece of information right now, which is the player city tier. And return tier to night music track takes player city tier. And so given like the player city tier, which I believe, where is this defined? Player city tier, so it starts at 1, and then when the population changes, like there's a listener here, so it's like, okay, my population's like population faction, if any of these guys change, like trace the population, if any of these guys change, then the tier is going to change too. So when the day, like when you go from day to night or night to day, the next time it recommends that there be music changes, it'll take into account the fact that it'll be tier 2 or tier 3 or tier 4 or whatever. So, all right. Questions from you guys out here. Is the Entling Chief supposed to spawn during a peaceful playthrough? What is the Entling Chief? Like the Goblin Chief? There are supposed to be no aggressive monsters in a peaceful game. If you are seeing aggressive monsters in a peaceful game, that is a bug, and please let us know about it. It's totally possible, because we always play on normal, because, you know, like, we're testing combat, that something may have gotten into peaceful that shouldn't be in peaceful. Let's see. Hey, Joe Maxro. Good to see you. You've gotten through 40 topics thus far, 450 to go. That is amazing. Domo714, my name is Stephanie. I work on Stonehearth. Hey, Michael Handy. Good to see you. Not sure how in-depth you're getting with sound, but have you been able to implement outer volume for Doug yet? No, not yet. This is the first sound work I've done in a while, so we're just, like, easing slowly into Doug's long list of sound requests. Outer volume, do you mean like the volume of the sound as opposed to the ambience or whatever? Let me know, like, feel free to elaborate here. Oh, that's the inventory getting too much wood. Hey, Radiant Yang, thank you very much for setting up the machine. And Ali, Ali had to be on a call, so she was in this room really recently, so Yang made sure that the machine was all ready to go, because I was off busy doing some survey things. Don't call me Shirley. It is it's been a long time. I agree. It's good to see you here. Subnautica, yeah. Okay, cool. So, in addition to player city tier, what we actually also want to record is your faction. So, faction data takes the faction data from population faction, populations, so let's see. Population service get data populations. So that's probably population.lua. Population.lua. Let's see. Let's start with population service.lua. So population service is what we're getting here. So we're getting the data. Population faction. There we go. So population faction contains actual data for your faction. And, for example, your kingdom. And that is, in fact, the piece of data that we want. So, it's recorded here in kingdom. So, population service is string kingdom. Right, okay, cool. So, we want to record the kingdom just like we record all this other stuff. And let me just listen on population changes. Okay. So, alright. We want to make sure that there's a default population. And let's see, player city tier. So player kingdom, really. It's been a while. Let's see. So that's part 1. And then part 2 is that so it's really here, like given a tier, like, you know, basically these are tier 2 day music track. It's just a very funny way of putting it together, because like you could theoretically nest this all. But anyhow, music tier 3, night music tier 3. To, like, you can imagine doing this all by, like, and let's see. Okay, so you get this track back, right? So it's like it returns this thing, recommend music tracks, is day and is night. It returns you a list of music tracks, recommend game music, right? So it takes a requester, channel, and an info. Recommend music takes the info, and recommend music says, okay, like, channels requester equals info. All right, so I see. So it makes info equal to the requester. So what is channels requester? That's kind of strange. Like, it's a little bit like backwards. So you'd think that you'd just be like, okay, well, all right, so it just sets this thing channels is going to be set to this info. So presumably the next time, like, you come to here, so local channels is this, and the info, so there's the requester, there's the screen name, channel name, and info, and the channels requester is the info. But this is kind of weird because, like, this is a local variable. Self-update music channel, it takes the channel name and the info. And where did this info come from? Self.chooseBestTrack channel name. And all channels do. This is so weird. It's like, why would you not just, like, have the thing pick the music? Update music channel. The info is still here. Channel name and the info. Great. If the current info is the old info, then just keep the last music track and return. If not, then let's see. If info.playlist, if there's a playlist, combat music has a playlist, right? Okay, if there's a playlist, like for combat music, do something. Otherwise, then the track info is self.getTrackInfo for info. And playing music track this. Okay, so what's getTrackInfo? This info, right? Like Radiant Audio track info. We create this new object, track info, and we choose a random track from here, info.track. So I guess the trick is that you want to make sure that the info here is the right info. So update the music channel, like going backwards. Update the music channel, sound change music. And this info is from self choose best track. Channels, channel name. Self.screens. What is this? Self.screens. It's just very weirdly named. Local screen is screen's screen name. Channels is screen channel name. I'm very confused by this. It's like, all right, why? Why are we assigning this? Like, it makes me wonder how this data ever gets here into change music at all. Okay, let's try this again. Self.screens. Is self.screens self.current UI screen? If the UI screen is loading screen, then keep playing. How often do we change self.current UI screen? Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, this is the kind of coding you're into. Let's see. You requested outer volume for you. I asked for more details. It's true. And then I haven't looked back at chat again. Let's see. Looking back up. Looking for something. Dramatic. So Doug says that when you guys have a proper inner volume where sounds get louder when you get near something. Right, yeah. Which prevents noises from being heard far away from something. Like wolves far across the map. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. There's just one number, I think, which is like how loud is the sound supposed to be, and how like it's a number that's about like how close you have to be to the sound in order to hear it. So in theory, if you're far away from the wolves, you're not supposed to hear them, but maybe we're not using it correctly. But yes, thank you for letting me know. Huge Hail Mary here. Has there been any advancement on the discussion of the world edge or expanding the map? There's been plenty of discussion. Don't call me Shirley. I don't know if you saw the Desktop Tuesday from a couple weeks ago. The Desktop Tuesday from a couple weeks ago was all about the edge of the world. And exactly. So that was going on. And then actually Ali has continued to work on expanding the concepts from that Desktop Tuesday. I think that we're zeroing in on the book map idea, maybe even specifically a book of maps. And when we've got a little bit more data about that, I will definitely make an update with her new art and with some of the things that we've been thinking after having looked at her art. Let's see. Is Chris still alive? And is he not Owen Wilson? Yeah, he is still alive, but he has stopped working on building for 2 weeks to instead work on something called a reachability service. The reachability service is supposed to let you know, like, okay, I'm a Hearthling and I'm on this square. Could I theoretically reach that square over there? So as a result, he's not actively looking at building. He's going to go back to building soon when he's finished with his current work on the reachability service, so you can just ping him. He is absolutely at not Owen Wilson. It's just, like, when he's working on performance, he can't think about building. It's not at the same time. When we got a drawbridge, I don't know. Drawbridges are something that we would like, but they are not currently on our horizon. Whatever ideas we run with, we should have a Davy Jones character who goes between worlds. That would be pretty amazing. Thanks for answering. Yeah, that sounds so awesome. It is all pretty awesome. I agree. Ali is amazing and has really great ideas. And I think, looking at her art fills the entire center of my chest with this sense of like longing or nostalgia or sweetness. Like it's a very pleasant sensation. And it's completely spontaneous, and it's just like, oh wow, like if only we could have that, if only we could do that. Suddenly Stonehearth seems to make sense when I look at like her book concept, for example. Yes, okay, cool. Returning briefly back to this code. So I think it's just weird because it's like, all right, channels. Yeah, we're checking that channels exist, and then we're looking for channels channel name. But channels is from self.screens. All screens. Okay. So self.screens is set here, and this is set to empty channels. For channel name in all the pairs inside all channels, then channels channel name equals empty. Okay, cool. So there's a channel for ambient and a channel for music. I get that. Where else is channels used? Local channels equals this. I wonder, like, it's just crazy, but like, if, right, local channel, I see, so channels is always local. Is there anything called channels that is not local? Like, fine, alright, so self.screens. Alright, let's take another look at when self.screens is updated. Right, so it's given an ambient channel and a music channel. And okay. Okay. Here's the thing. It's just that it's like magic to me how it is that this stuff gets populated. So maybe the real answer is to just run it in Dakota and like you know, do that instead and put a breakpoint there and figure out what's going on. But either way, what we eventually want to do is be like, okay, idle day music tier 1, and here's a bunch of tracks. But really it's like, well, if you have like the Rise Children, if you're Rise Children, then you should get these tracks, and if you're this other group of people, you should get those tracks. So it would look something like kingdoms, and then like kingdom ID, description, whoop, kingdom, right, well let's just do this for now. But you can see how this is completely inappropriate because you actually really want this data to come from elsewhere. Okay. We'll just keep that other stuff there for now. And let's in fact do this so that let's just make this one of them, and we'll make the other one of them, so that we'll know between the two which one is being played. Okay, so this is just a mock-up. Right. But you can totally see how you would want this to be in JSON and not in Lua, so that you could just add things. Okay. Right, so here we go. Info playlist. Otherwise, track info, self.get track info. Get track info says do this, right? Okay, right. So loop, loop, loop. Choose random track and choose random track. Right, this is the tracks. So you want it to be something like tracks is info colon self dot player kingdom. So that gets you like here, like self dot player kingdom, and then one of these, and then underneath is just the tracks. So self.playerKingdom, let's just comment this out for now. Track info, track, choose tracks. Right. Okay. Is this function called anywhere else? Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's actually called up here. So, on some level, like trackinfo.loop, like, I suppose it's possible that, you know, it's like anywhere you see track, like even if it is in combat or whatever, track, right? All these guys would eventually get updated. And I wonder if it isn't actually done this way because, like, in this case, you know, there's just one, and in this case there's multiple, and so, like, you can easily use code that just has one or the other. So in this case it's like, alright, well, right, choose random tracks. Right, if it's a string, then just return it, and that's cool. But if it's not a string, then, you know, get one of them. Right, okay. And get track info. And it's like, well, you were expecting track, but what is that? Just thinking like, alright, like, if I have a playlist, then, audio, play music. Wow, there are like so many things that we could change about this that that would make it better, but like would have a bunch of consequences. Like, so it's not even like it's just one thing or a little thing. It could be many things, because we actually have the idea of playlist, which means that in theory, like, we could always do something like what Doug wanted, which is to play a piece of music, and then let it go quiet. Can we? And then you pick a random track and it starts over. You'd have to kind of know all the lengths of all of the pieces of music, so maybe that's less good. In this case, these combat musics are probably the same, and so like there's a playlist, and it's like you play the intro and then you play, right? Okay, maybe not. That's different. It's a different kind of playlist. Okay, cool. Any update on biomes from Fearshrind? At the moment, we are focusing on the core gameplay and a bunch of core things, and biomes are sort of like or not accelerators, but they're like enhancers. So they make the whole of the game get cooler over the course. They make the game get broader, and right now we're looking at fixing things and improving things that are part of the core experience. So we're not thinking about actually like more biomes at the moment. We are, however, going through and sort of making like Rise Children a little bit cooler, which is why we're doing this music stuff at all. Okay, so maybe the right thing to do is to be like, all right, well, sometimes you get your track. Like, there's a lot of stuff here about track, info.track. I wonder if it might not be better. Well, it's like, oh, here's Ascendancy, here's Rise Children, like, here's some information about them, and then here's the track inside. But it means, like, it would be copying this data over and over and over again, and I feel like that could be useful, but maybe you wouldn't want it to be. So what I mean is, like, what if the data structure looked like this instead? It would be more consistent, certainly. Right, so inside Ascendancy you had a track, and inside Rise Children you had tracks, and then you get all this data the same old-fashioned way. So it looks like how it used to. It's just that now it's broken out in by kingdom. In which case, what happens here is that target tracks is info player kingdom tracks, like that. And then that means that we would have to change all of these guys to follow that model. But so that's day, that's night. Let's try this. Again, for testing purposes. Okay, cool. Let's start there and see how far we get. It is definitely not sufficient, but perhaps it'll be sufficient enough. So, hey Dakota, let's give this a go. Project, recent files, Stonehearth. We will fix a bunch of things as we attempt to carry these changes out. Okay, Michael Handy says, Stonehearth, scroll up. What am I scrolling up to? The thing is, you're working on something for PAX. You're setting up templates as per requested. You got most of them done, but 2 builds are having the same problem with the roof and this facade, and there's no conflict or anything, so I guess the question is, should you redesign them with slab roofs, but then they won't go away when changing vision? Chris did send me a note today that he was thinking that he would be done with his reachability service soon. So ping him again. He is going to be available Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and only those 3 days, and then he will be out of the office next week for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if he can get to if he can answer your question about those building things in the next 3 days, then that would be cool. And if not, maybe you can ping him, like, you know, like at PAX itself, or in that case, give it a go with Slab. If you can wait until next week to give it a go with Slab, I guess. If he has not responded to you by Monday of next week, then give it a go with Slab. Okay, let's see. Farming minigames, but what were those minigames? Yeah, you would basically, wow, Dakota, you're taking forever. You would basically, like, set up your cabbage in a certain formulation. Like, if you set it up in an X or in like a diamond shape or something, you would end up with, like, king cabbage instead of, like lesser cabbage. Okay, so in order to make this work, we actually need one more thing, which I forgot, which is that self.playerKingdom needs to get updated just like population changes. So self.playerKingdom equals pop faction data dot kingdom. Okay, cool. And we can choose, I guess, later if we want this to be nil, or if we want this to be nil, or like okay, cool. So let's get this updated. And then the very first thing that we should do is put a breakpoint into the timer. So when this is updated, this will get a note. And then let's also figure out what exactly is inside this music stuff. So like update music channel. Current music. Remember, I was like, hey, I don't understand how this is getting updated, so let's definitely put a thing in here because we're trying to figure out what the target tracks are. But this get track info is called from here. Update music channel, like choose best tracks. Info. Change music, right? Okay, so channel name and info. Choose best tracks. This is about whether or not it's in combat. Priority and info. Okay, well anyway, let's just see what happens. Hopefully this should just be ascendancy, and it won't matter that field break. Okay, self.playerKingdom is indeed nil, so that's not so good, because that means that there is a default kingdom, and that the sound service, all the sound stuff happens like before we necessarily know what kingdom we are getting. Let me just see that. Listens on population changes. Is this... When does this happen? Okay, so we're gonna get the service, monitor city tier. When does this happen? Monitor time. Right, so this happens at the very beginning. So it's like, okay, hey, like, what city tier am I? I'm gonna listen on population changes. Let's see. When I listen on population changes, then I'm gonna get the data. Listen on population changes. Okay, so this actually should happen fairly early, but let's see. Monitor time, monitor city tier. Oh, I see. So this only happens probably because we're calling the population service, and this get track info. Yeah, how do we get here? Like, call stack. It's coming from change music, and change music, install listeners. Okay, sound install listeners on frame start. Right, I guess it's because you kind of want your listeners at the beginning. Find install listeners. Okay, so monitor city tier does in fact happen first, but install listeners happens next, and frame start probably happens before we figure out like what our population data is. Okay, let's see. Okay, but that said, what is info? Like, info is nothing. So interesting. Self.playerKingdom is nil, and it used to just be info.track, and info would be nothing, so there was no problem there. I wonder if this, so let's just keep going down this rabbit hole, because maybe there's a chance that this will get populated eventually. Because info isn't even anything yet. Okay. So it's like, if there's info and we have a player kingdom, then try. And if we don't have a player kingdom, then just don't return anything for now. Okay, cool. Kill that, keep going, try again. Okay, we started with this, monitor city tier, which is completely appropriate. Listen on population changes, yeah. Alright, so there goes listen on population changes, because listen on population changes is like, okay, what is my kingdom? My kingdom is actually currently nil. That's fascinating. Let's see. Let's put this in here and investigate this. Sorry guys, lost track of the chat for a sec. Oh, lost track of the chat some more. Let's go back here. So what's in here? Player ID is in here. Is NPC is in here. But for some reason kingdom is not. Population faction, so player ID. It could be because it's nil, and that's interesting. Kingdom is set here. Let's see if it's set anywhere else. Right. So it's possible that that all gets set later. Okay, player 1, and we continue. Alright, so the question is, does that ever get set again? As Stonehearth loads, as the world turns. Oh, interesting. So this is not a unit test. This is like the whole thing. Wow. Alright, I was not expecting that. Let's go here. I think that'll take forever. Debug project settings. Let's see. We want this to be, well, actually, probably easier to do it this way. User settings. Stonehearth world generation, auto tests, game, main mod is Stonehearth tests, and Stonehearth tests. Let's just say that it was the, well, let's not do the memory build test, let's do the build test. That sounds good. Alright, so let's just double check that make run. Let's see. Okay, over here. How are you guys doing? Okay, so that worked. So now if we do, well, alright, that didn't really work because there's definitely problems, but let's do this, let's do this. Now let's run the game again in Dakota so that we can see what the problems are from here. Everything takes a little bit longer to load in Dakota, but it's useful because you can at least set breakpoints and stuff. Always good. Taking forever. Come on. Okay, so population service. Alright, cool. We are getting a call to the population service. And this is coming back, and whoops. Sorry, so that's the ascendancy. Population faction data change. Get data. Okay, cool. Now we know that there's something else going on here, which is that if this changes, so then there's this, like, is the data change about the kingdom? If so, then get it. But the other thing is that kingdom is saved as Stonehearth Kingdom's ascendancy, so this is going to need to become and that doesn't really make any sense because, like, in Lua it's a thing, so like it would be difficult to make that a, like, key in and of itself, but when we do this in JSON, then that will certainly work. Okay, and then this would be like Stonehearth Kingdom's Rise Children, in theory. But again, like, we would want to take this out into JSON because this probably doesn't compile in Lua in any way, shape, or form. I suppose there's always a chance it might, but somehow I doubt it. Okay. Let's see. Right, so Lua's not reading that as a string, which makes perfect sense to me. That is not how Lua wants to handle those guys. So probably what we want to do at this point is try sticking this in a JSON file so that we can just do the right thing from the start. Okay, so where does sound service live? And I wonder how easy it is to read a JSON file from the client. It should be fine, but we will find out together. So for example, how does population faction read ascendancy population.json, and so on and so forth? like I said, guys, I apologize. It's been a little bit of a while. I'm looking for an instance in which people draw information out of a file. So, for example, like when the farming service initializes itself. Yes, here we go. Like, Radiant Resources load JSON, Stonehearth Farmer all crops. So for example, like Radiant Resources load JSON, and then let's see if we look at manifest.json. No, wrong manifest. Stonehearth manifest.json. Let's see. Stonehearth Farmer all crops. Right, okay. So services, server, farming, data, all crops. Let's see what we can do about sound. So for example, if we went here, we went to work, Stonehearth, script source, Stonehearth data, mods, Stonehearth, services, client, sound. So the sound service.lu is in here. Right, so if we followed this, we could do something like create a new JSON file. So this is musictracks.json. And you could imagine that musictracks.json had something like, let's see, sound service. Let's try copying this and then reformatting it. Let's just check this again. Okay, so like really what is the right sort of formulation for this? I feel like let's see, let's view in 2 lines or something. Word wrap. Let's see. Okay, let's do 2 columns. Don't need this guy anymore. Don't need the manifest. Let's do this. So in theory, what would musictracks.json want to look like? And I feel like the answer is you would have something like would probably do something like, well, it's like if you want to mod it, or if you want to mod it, then like it really depends on where you think that the most amount of music is going to be. Like, are you going to need to be adding things at like a tiny level, or are you going to need to, like, do you want to write Stonehearth Kingdom's Ascendancy, Stonehearth Kingdom's Rise Children a bunch, or do you just want to write them once? If we were just going to do this whatever, this is what I would say. This is the outside of the JSON file, and there would be a key here called kingdoms. And then inside kingdoms, you'd have Stonehearth Kingdom's Ascendancy, and this would have a section, and then you'd have an entire other section here that you'd add, which is Stonehearth Kingdoms, Raya's Children, and then that would look like this. And then within Stonehearth Kingdom's Ascendancy, you would have Idle Day music, and you'd have Idle Night music, and you Idle Day ambient, Idle Night ambient. Let's see. So Idle Day, Idle Night, and at some point we're gonna have to figure out combat and title and all those other things. But let's start here, because this is the part that is going to be let's see. So the first thing that you pick is, you know what kingdom you have, you know whether it's day or night, like you know what tier you have, right? Okay, so let's actually make the tiers on the outside. And the logic is that, like, well, the kingdom almost never changes, the tiers change a little bit, and then the day night changes a lot. So here are the tiers. Idle Day music tier 1. Fine, whatever. Tiers. We have tier 1. Interesting. So where's the tier selected? Player city tier. Player city tier is a number. Self player city tier. Return tier 2 day music track. Okay. Oh, I see. It's because Lua, right, it's because Lua, it's because of the way that Lua arrays and things go. So if we wanted to be 100% like the old one, we would make this into an array, not a data structure, and it would be tier 1 is this, tier 2 is this, and tier 3 is this. But the reason that that's not great is because it means that, like, if you're a modder, like, how do you get to just one of those 3 guys? So we should just make it explicit. And so then it's like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Okay. And then within these guys, you'd have Idle Day and Idle Night. These dudes over here. Gosh, I feel like this is a much larger project than I expected it to be, or I probably wouldn't have tried to do it on stream, but well, hey, you know, here we go. So what would that actually look like? Well, here it would be like right, you would grab all of this, idle day music tier 1, and you'd stick it in here. And it's true. Oh, and like it's like seasonal also, isn't it? Okay, so eventually there will also be seasons, and I guess we should probably plan for that. Wow, that's kind of incredible. Okay, so if we also decided to break it up by seasons, then day and night, your like city tier, does your city tier change more often than the seasons change? Like probably the seasons, yeah, so tier 1, and then like great, seasons, and then right, seasons would be there, and then you would have like winter, spring, autumn, and stuff here. And then day and night for each of them. I guess the point of all of this is that Raj has written us quite a lot of music. Right. And I mean, like, what happens if you somehow don't have some of this data? Like, if we don't have season data, then kind of like by default, like, is it all the same? Like, do we want to bother specifying? Like, if you added a new kingdom, like if you added Rise Children, and you just wanted some tracks for them, but not all the tracks for them, like, and you didn't want to split it up quite this degree, I feel like the tiers are required practically. But you could just put everything in tier 1 and, like, you know, never update it. But anyhow, so I guess let's just finish it. We're gonna have seasons eventually, spring. Summer. Fall. And winter. Okay. And then I wonder if it needs this, if it doesn't just do this. Like, alright, Ascendancy, then Ascendancy has the tier layer, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? And then, inside the tiers, implicitly there's seasons. I guess it reads less completely cleanly, in terms of like, okay, well, when I'm adding something, how do I know where I'm adding it? And then within spring, there's idle day. And idle night. Oh, this is kind of crazy. But we'd have the exact same structure for tier 2. And tier 3. Right, and then you'd duplicate the structure for Rise Children at the bottom. All right, it is 7:09, so I feel like this is good progress for today, just sort of like feeling out the problem space and where it is we want to go in the code. Let me just check you guys and see what your thoughts are, and we will continue to work on this either next week or some other time. 8-Bit Crab asks, is there any lore that we can share? I feel like last time I talked a little bit about how Frost Feast is a festival that is celebrated by all the 3 different factions of the different, like all the 3 factions of Stonehearth, and that perhaps there was like a unified beginning for Frost Feast. So maybe like in the ancient times, during the time of the Phoenix Empire, there was a single mechanism, or the first Frost Feast, and that first Frost Feast was so powerful in their memory, was a moment in which they were able to save themselves, or a turning point in their civilization, which is why they still celebrate it now. However, each of the different kingdoms ought to celebrate Frost Feast differently. So that's a little bit more in where we're going. Let's see. Sorry if this is a little bit of an obscure thing. I haven't coded in a while, so this is a good return to form for me. I'm glad it looks like I was in my zone, Vox Neutron. King Foxtrot asks, does the town tier level affect which songs play as well as the seasons? Yes, that is the idea. So Raj wrote different music for all of the seasons and all of the tiers and all of the factions. So if you're Ascendancy tier 2 and it's spring, it's different music than Ascendancy tier 2 summer. And honestly, that's really, really cool. So what's the plan with pirates, ninjas, and politicians? Well, the Order of Applied Equivocation would like to come to your house and take all of your things. Under the idea that is their right, equivocation, like let's give some, let's take some, right? And so they're a little bit more subtle about it than goblins, though. I think we will probably take a closer look at what pirates, ninjas, and politicians do again when we're building out the breadth of the world, because there's something that makes the world cooler. So we'll talk more about that later. You just got here, and the stream before this just ended as I got here too, as you got there too. Ooh, sharks and dinosaurs. That would be awesome. Stonehearth, there should be a holiday, like if you're playing Ascend, you get a visit by 3 hearthlings from Rise Children with gifts. Oh, that's really good. Like because, you know, they came with gifts or whatever, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do with this code is I'm going to save it to my local drive, because I don't want to pollute anything. So let's just copy it here for Stephanie, like music changes. Hello. Yeah. So let's hear. So there goes music tracks, and then let's see, sound service. This version of soundservice.lua. And then I will close these guys and nuke these changes, because, like, frankly, they're kind of dangerous. So, let's see, discard them all. Yeah. All right. Let's delete that one. Cool. Okay. So the tree should be back in a clean working state for Yang and Ali for later this week, which is good. Yes, you are right. You are totally right. Let's see. This is right. You're right. Rise Kingdom, Rise Children. Kingdoms, Rise Children. Absolutely. Thank you. Good call, Bruno Soprano. Anything else on the map edges? Did Ali figure out what she wants to do? Yes, actually. So, we had a lot of discussion about this, actually, and I will definitely do another Desktop Tuesday and an update about this when we do some more. But right now the idea is that when you get to the edge of the map, there would be like a border where the map has decorations or something, and right now the big question is what happens to the edge of the map. For example, do we take the terrain that's actually there and do we just sort of make it hazy and really hard to see, do some sort of combination between the terrain, like a 3D version of the terrain and a 2D version of the terrain? Do we have like an interior border so that like you can see a ghost terrain like in a 10, maybe like a nav grid tile radius around the center? So she has some different mock-ups, and I think that the general takeaway from all of them is that right now, the way that the pizza box sort of like yanks and cuts off the exact edge of the mountain, like, is very, very weird. Like, it's accurate because, I mean, your part of the world borders on some other part of the world, but it looks visually, like, really boring, like we just got it cut off. So there should be some way for the edge of the world to be slightly more gradiated, to have like a little bit more texture to it, and whether we do that by artificially adding like stylized edges to the edge of the world, or whether we do that by blending like terrain with the map or something like that, those are all out of the realm of concept now and into the realm of actually mocking up. And so we're not going to be prepared to do that for some weeks yet, maybe some alphas yet, but she did definitely make progress on what it is that she'd like it to look like. Let's see. It's a good description for the Bastioneers. Can we put in an Easter egg referencing super long time community members like Steve Adamo, Jeffers, or Foggy? That would be awesome. Absolutely. You also suggested, says Michael Handy, how you pick up your map in Kingdoms, make 3 different versions, and the player can pick it. 3 different versions, like 3 different versions of the map edge? Oh, you mean of like the way that the edge of the world looks. I really think it depends on how expensive that turns out to be to render. Like, so, you know, like having one really good looking version is going to be a lot cooler, or is going to be a good start. And then we can see like what the different kinds of map edges, if we have time and or bandwidth to make more different versions of the edges. I think, you know, on some level, it would be good for changes. Like, it's like the rule of thumb for changing things based on the 3 different races or whatever is like, well, does it significantly change gameplay? And if it does, and it's a relatively small change that seriously changes gameplay, like putting where it is that you get promoted, then that is a clear win. If it's purely visual and it's also relatively inexpensive because you get like a stylistic tone, then that's also a big win. If it's expensive though, and it doesn't change gameplay, and you know, it takes a lot of time to investigate, then it's a little bit harder to justify. Different edges for each race? That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. Like, certainly the map border would be different depending on, or at least certainly the map border could be different, how about that, depending on which faction you pick. But if it's all the same faction and we spent that time instead making, like, you know, a more performant game, then perhaps, like, that's another good trade-off. It is all about trade-offs at this point, so that's always exciting. All right, do you guys have any last questions for me before we turn it off for tonight? Thank you very much for keeping me company as I got back into these sound changes, which Doug has been asking for like forever. So let me know. If you don't mind me saying, you think caves are a long overdue feature. Yeah, you should bug Albert about that. We have been talking about caves for a long time. But Albert currently like understands the terrain best of all of us, and so he has been working on water, and then he was working on combat, and now he's working on performance. So like caves would be like something that he would work on if he wanted to, when all of those things were done, or when all the high importance elements of those things are done. And I think he's been feeling like, oh man, I want to fix these things that are broken as opposed to adding new things. But I agree, caves would be really cool. Kick off the multiplayer? Man, no, it's not easy. What's Albert's Discord name? I believe it is Albert. Stonehearth, should the Bastioneers be a thing? I thought the Bastioneers were a thing. Like, they're a mod, right? By Warp, and they're a very awesome mod. So, that's really cool. Yeah, his avatar is like a red Lego brick, and there's actually a red Lego brick on his desk, which I think is hilarious, because I mean, like, every red Lego brick looks like every other red Lego brick, but no, like, on the discourse, it's Albert. Oh, 8-Bit Crab, it was my pleasure to stream. I hope it wasn't too boring. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and it was fun to chat with you guys too. Alright, I will close this off for tonight, but you can catch Ali tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning. She will probably also be working on some more Rise Children things if I know her and if she's going to continue. And if not, I'm sure she's got other cool things in surprise, as a surprise for you. Any sneak peeks into Alpha 19? That is a good question. Alpha 19 is very amorphous at the moment. Like we have a vague idea at the moment of what we'd like to be in it. Certainly we're going to keep on working on some of those long-term things that I mentioned at Desktop Tuesday. Like, Chris has a huge, like, reachability service fix, so, you know, that would be good to put in for 19, or at least to keep on working on in 19. And Ali will continue exploring paintings, you know, answering big unanswered questions, like what does weather in Stonehearth look like? But those aren't going to be in the game for 19. Those are just things that we're working on perpetually in the background now. I would say that 19's focus is going to be on, like, making the world feel more alive. So maybe, like, some more things to make the Hearthlings feel more like individuals, or to hear more things about your Hearthlings as they're working, you know, Hearthling morale, that kind of stuff. But this is all really still very vague, and so, like, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's going to shake out over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, cool. Good night, guys. It was a pleasure. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next week.